Hi, this is SJ Talks to Life coming back at you with another video. If you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I want to do this video um, addressing the single mothers. The message to the single mothers. Like I said, I spent many years, as I said in other videos, I spent many years being a single mom. And so I have a lot of knowledge on that subject. Um, and I learned a lot in my years of being a single mom. I learned a lot of things. Um, it was rough. It was rough, and it was also an incredible learning experience for me, and I learned a lot of things and gained a lot of knowledge and wisdom from all my years of being a single mom. So I feel like there's I can tell these youngins a thing or two. I feel like I can um, tell them things. Um, the knowledge that I learned, the knowledge that I gained from being a single mom, I can spread that knowledge on to the single mothers now, even though they don't listen. um, but you never know. You never know. Um, so I learned a lot, gained a lot of wisdom. Um, this is something that single mothers do not want to hear. What I'm about to talk about is something that single moms do not want to hear. I didn't want to hear it when I was a single mother. You know, there's certain things that it was certain realities. There was certain realities that I didn't want to face and come to terms with when I was in the thick of the situation, when I was in it, when I was really thick into the situation of being a single mom. There were certain realities that I just didn't want to face, and um, I look back at that time, and um, you know, knowing what my mindset was then versus my mindset now, um, and your expectations of what you expect, and um, certain thing like realities that you really don't want to come to terms with or want to face as a single mom that ultimately you're going to have to face. It's a really, really, really hard pill to swallow. It's a hard pill to swallow. It really is. Um, but I think ultimately you come out stronger in the end. You're coming out with more wisdom, and you're coming out stronger in the end. You're coming out more realistic. Um, and a lot of a life is like, I'm about to be 55, so in my 55 years, I realize that a lot of life is just acceptance. Acceptance and coming to terms with things. Being able to come to terms with stuff and be able to accept things. I think a large portion of life is that. It's just acceptance. It's just learning to accept things. And I think when we're going through a process where we have a hard time accepting things and coming to terms with things, that's when we really struggle. That's when we really struggle mentally, and we really struggle emotionally. But when you learn to come to terms with certain things and come to acceptance of certain things, then you'll know how to navigate, and you'll learn how to deal with that situation better, and you'll come out better emotionally and mentally from the situation. I don't know if I'm making any sense. I don't know if I'm making any sense to you guys. Sometimes things make sense to me. It makes sense in my brain anyway. I don't know if I'm making sense to you guys or not. But anyway, but this is it's other words. What I'm trying to say is a lot of it's a lot of realities that single mothers have to face or should face that they don't necessarily want to face. Um, and it's a lot of things they may not want to hear or whatever, but it's a reality because when you're a single mother, it's not just about you; it's about your kids. Your kids' needs come first, and I'm talking to the YouTube moms and all single mothers, and including the YouTube mommies and all single mothers out there. Your children come first, and they're a priority over what you want and what you need and what you desire, or even what you want to do. And so I found, I mean, when I was a single mother, I was going through a process of where I was trying to date and or whatever. After my youngest son was born, I wanted to, because his biological father wasn't in the picture. I was hoping to meet a nice man and get married, and I was hoping that that man would adopt my youngest son, and that I could have that family life, and my two sons would have a stable father figure in the home. That's what I was hoping, at that particular time. That's where my mindset was. So, I did a little dating, a little online dating or whatever, and it just, got pretty discouraged from doing that. And just, but at some point, in my mid 30s, mid to going towards late 30s, I decided to just stop dating altogether. Decided to stop dating altogether. I took myself off the market, started focusing on my relationship with God. At that point, I started studying with the witnesses, and I wanted to dedicate my life to God and just focus on getting myself together. And I was going to college at that time too, so I was trying to get myself together educationally, mentally, spiritually. At that point in time in my life, I was really, really wanting to dedicate my life to God and just wait on Him, if He seemed fit for me to have a mate. Um, so, because I didn't want to put myself in a position, I didn't want to bring multiple, it's 10 years between my sons, so I didn't want to bring, my oldest son was already a teenager. He was at an impressionable age, and my youngest son was still young, and he was coming up, so I didn't want to just be bringing different men around my sons, and unless that man was going to be a potential husband. So, and then I knew that there were certain things that I was going to have to change, you know, and everything. Certain sacrifices I was going to have to make, and that was a sacrifice that I decided to make, so I can set the best example possible for my sons. And because it's not good for your children to, it's good to for your children to see their mother in a stable marriage where a man really loves and cares for them. But if you're a single mother and they don't see that, it's better for them to not see you with anybody than to see you with partners that's not stable, partners that may be abusive, or not that I was dealing with those types because I wasn't, but a partners just people that's just not for you. You know, it's better for them to see you by yourself than to see you if they can't see you in a loving marriage, stable relationship type situation. It's best for them to just see you by yourself because exposing a lot of times if women, most women want that companionship. Nobody wants to be a single mother, and they want that companionship. And so during the process of trying to find that stable companion, they kiss a lot of frogs in the meantime, and then they're exposing their children to these different types of men. And that was something that I did not want to do, you know. And now I'm not expecting everybody to be like me, but I'm just telling you what I learned, you know, what I learned from my situation and of being a single mom and all that, and what I came to terms with to realize what was best as a single mother. And with a lot of these, I know a lot of these young single mothers, they want a husband. They want somebody that's going to come in and be a stable father figure to the kids in the home and be a loving partner for them. But the reality of that is, this is the reality of that situation. The reality of that situation is there's not a lot of men out here that's going to sign up for that, particularly if you got more than two kids. And nowadays, these guys have lowered the bar. It used to be if you had one kid, you was good, but now they're saying they don't want a lot of men are saying they don't want women with children. Period. It used to be if you had one, you was straight. Two, you kind of pushing it, but yeah, they might be able to whatever. It depends on the situation. But now they really have adjusted the bar and lowered the bar, and they're going out just saying that they don't want a woman with children. Period. Whether it's one or whatever. And so a lot of most men do not want to come into a situation to where you know where they have to parent someone else, another man's children, or where they have to help provide for another man's children, or whatever the situation is. Most most men don't, the way the mindset of these men nowadays and the way they think, most men don't want to come into that situation. That's just the reality of it. And so it is really rare to find a man that it takes a special kind of man to actually come in and be a good stepfather to kids that's not biologically his, and to be a loving husband for you, and a good provider and a good protector. That is extremely rare to find. It's like a unicorn. It's like they're unicorns. It's like they're literally unicorns. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It takes a special kind of man to actually do that, because most men are not willing to really sign up for that. Particularly if you got two or more children with more than one dad. Most men are not going to. Now that's a reality that I didn't want to come to terms with, particularly after I had my youngest son. That's a reality that I definitely did not want to come to terms with at that particular time in my life. Didn't realize it until much later down the road that this is what the reality is of being a single mother, particularly African American black single mom. You know, because when we outnumber our men, there's so many other variables in there as to why it's so difficult for black women to land a black marriage mate. And that's a whole nother video. I still haven't got around to doing that video yet, but there's so many other variables to that. So it's difficult for black women. Period. It's difficult for black women that don't even have children to land a stable marriage mate that's of the same race. So it's extremely difficult for us black women because there's a lot of factors involved with why there's a low percentage of marriageable men in our community. And so, particularly as a black woman, that's just a reality, and something that you have to come to terms with, that you should come to terms with. And that's a lot of things that a lot of single mothers don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that, not too many men is going to want to sign up for to be a stepfather, especially the mindset of these younger generations of men coming up. They're on a different mindset, and it's not too many of them that wants to sign up to be a good stepfather and a husband for you. That's very difficult to find, and it took me a long time to come to terms with the fact that I guess I'm going to be in this thing for the long haul. It took me a long time to come to terms with that and accept it. It wasn't overnight and it wasn't easy, but that's something that a lot of these single mothers are going to have to come to terms with a lot of them. Now, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them are going to have to come to terms with and come to face the reality that you may be single for the duration of the time that you're raising your children. And that's another thing, you you sometimes, as a single mother, it's best to just be single for a time. You have to put the needs of your children before your wants and desires. It takes a tremendous amount of sacrifice to raise children. That's why some people opt to not have kids, because if they're really, some people are married to their careers. If they're really focused on their career and their career is the most important thing, or if they feel like, well, I got so much going on with my career or whatever, I don't feel like I have enough to give the child, or I feel like I'm not able to make the sacrifices needed to raise a child. That's being realistic. And you can actually respect that. That's being realistic. And some people, some single people just say, hey, I like to travel, I like to do this, and I like to do that. I don't want to bring a child into a situation to where I'm not going to be there for the child. So that's just being realistic. People say that single people without children are selfish. I don't think that's being selfish at all. I think that's just being honest and not bringing a child into a situation to where, you want to make sure that when you have a child, that child is being brought into the best situation possible. Well, a lot of people always think about what they want instead of thinking about what's best for the child. You have to think about what's best for the child. People can't get past what they want, and they don't focus on what's best for the child. And so what's best for the child is having a loving two-parent home. That's what's best for the child. And if you're not in a position to where you can provide that, it don't make no sense to keep bringing children into the world and you're not able to provide that stable home for the child. It just doesn't make any sense. Um, and so a lot of times, sometimes it's best for single mothers just to be single for a time, to put your needs and desires for a mate aside, to focus on your kids and putting them first, the emotional well-being and everything of your children, and putting them first. And that sometimes does require a tremendous sacrifice on your part. You being single, you know, not following certain career paths because it might take too much time away from your children. Just making those sacrifices. You have to have a lot of love and dedication to your children to make those sacrifices. But sometimes those sacrifices are necessary because you have to be careful, what you do around your kids and how you're raising them, who you having around them, and all that kind of stuff, because it can affect them for the rest of their life if you don't have them in the best possible environment that you possibly can have them in. That it can affect them for the rest of their life, you know, mentally, emotionally, and so that's you know something that a lot of these single mothers may not want to hear. I know I was reading in the blog on somebody's I don't know if it's somebody's channel. I was in the comment section of somebody else's channel, and or either on Facebook, either one or the other. And one lady said that she had a daughter, and she said she just remained single until her daughter got grown. I said, now that's what's up. That's the ultimate sacrifice. And so that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes, single mothers have to be single for a time. I did. I spent many years being single, um, to to focus on your kids, because there's so many bad people out here. You don't want to just expose just anybody around your child. And so some mothers make that sacrifice. They make that sacrifice of just taking themselves off the market. They stop dating to completely focus on their child and putting their child first. That's something that a lot of single mothers don't want to hear. That's a reality they may not want to face. but you might have to do that. And that's what's in the best interest of the child, you know. Sometimes it's not best as a single mother to date multiple people or whatever like that. If you do, it's not best to expose those people to your children. And so sometimes it's best just to make the sacrifice to be single for a time and work on you mentally and emotionally, and focus, totally put your focus on your children and their physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual well-being. A lot of mothers don't want to hear that, you know. And ultimately, that's what's going to be best for your children in the long term. You know, if you don't have that stable mate, it's like I said, it's going to be extremely difficult to find that, particularly if you got more than one child by multiple fathers, more than one father. It's going to be extremely difficult for you to land a stable marriage mate for you and a father figure for your kids, because when I listen to the Black Manosphere, ain't too many of them willing to sign up for that. It's like a unicorn. So that being said, it's sometimes best to just be single for a time and focus on raising your kids and focus on their emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental, and focus on, you know, a lot of times there's a lot of healing that needs to, I had a lot of healing that needed to take place. It was best for me, I think that ultimately it was best for me to be single for the duration of, you know, the time of me raising my sons, because it was a lot of healing that needed to take place. And I'm still, believe it or not, I'm still going through some healing processes on some things. So it was a lot of healing that needed to take place, and I needed to get myself together spiritually and mentally, and so yeah, and so, you know, God didn't see fit for me to have a mate during that time. You know, I think because I did needed to go through a lot of healing and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that that's something that a lot of single mothers now. If you had said that to me right after I had my youngest son, if somebody had to try to ran that down to me, I would have been like, no, I probably would have been in tears. I wouldn't have wanted to hear it. So that's something that because you want to get married. You don't want to be a single mother. You want that helpmate. You know, you want somebody to help you. You want a loving partner for you. You want a good father figure for your kids. You want that provider. What single mother doesn't want that, you know? So ain't nobody trying to hear, you know, well, you may not, there's a strong possibility that you may not get that. You may need to be single for a time to focus on your kids. Who wants to hear that? I know I didn't when I was in my early 30s. I didn't want to hear that. So it's a reality that a lot of single mothers might have to face. It's like I said, it's a hard pill to swallow. It was a hard pill to swallow for me, you know. But ultimately, you know, in the long run, you're better off emotionally because you're not getting into these situationships that's toxic. You're not exposing your children to that, you know. So ultimately, and you may, you know, draw a closer relationship with God, you know, work on yourself mentally and physically, emotionally, even educationally, you know, financially, you know. And so that time is for you. When you're single, that time is for you. You know, when you have children, that time is for you, and it's for your children. It's for you to put more energies into your children's well-being, you know. And like I said, that's something a lot of single mothers don't want to hear, but because they can't get past what they want, and that is a stable marriage mate and father figure to the children. They can't get past what they want, and that's why they ain't trying to hear that. but it's ultimately that's what's for the best, you know. Um, yeah. So hit me up and let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Hit me up in the comment section and like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And until the next video, be blessed.